Welcome to the first episode of Murderlicious, your new favorite podcast hosted by two sisters, Lindsay
and Lauren,
where we talk about all things true crime. Today we're going to talk about the story of Elisa Lam. But before we get into the story, Lauren, why don't you tell us a little bit of background about where the story takes place?
The story takes place at a really old and historic haunted hotel that opened in the 1920s called the Cecil Hotel. In 2011, it was rebranded as the Stay on Main Hotel. It has 700 rooms, and it was renovated and redeveloped into a mix of hotel rooms and residential units in 2017. The hotel's history includes suicides, murders, disturbances, and it was a notorious spot for adulterous couples, drug activity, and sex work. One of the most famous deaths that happened involving the Cecil Hotel was the 1947 murder of Elizabeth Short, who is also known as the Black Dahlia, and she was seen drinking at the hotel bar in the days before her death. The hotel also hosted some of the country's most famous serial killers, and one of them was Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and he lived there in 1985 on the top floor of the hotel during his killing spree. The Vienna Strangler also lived there in 1991, but today our story takes place in 2013.
Now, most of you have probably already heard of Elisa Lam, but in case you haven't, she was a 21-year-old student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. She was the daughter of immigrants from Hong Kong. In 2010, she began a blog named The Other Fields on Blogspot. And for the next 2 years, she posted pictures of models and fashion inspiration and accounts of her life, and included her struggle with mental illness. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. According to her family, who supposedly kept her history of mental illness a secret, Eliza had no history of suicidal ideations or attempts in the past. Although one report claimed that she had previously gone missing for a brief period, but we couldn't find any information about it online, so we don't know if that actually happened or when it happened or anything like that. In January 2012, she posted on her blog that a relapse at the beginning of the school term caused her to drop several of her classes, leaving her feeling so utterly directionless and lost. She titled that post, "You're always haunted by the idea of wasting your life." So in January of 2013, she decided to take a trip to California to travel the West Coast alone. She traveled by Amtrak and city buses. She visited the San Diego Zoo and posted pictures on social media of her visits. She arrived in Los Angeles on January 26, 2013, and 2 days later, she checked into the Cecil Hotel near downtown Skid Row. Initially, she shared a room on the 5th floor, hostel style, but her roommates complained about what the hotel lawyer would later describe as certain odd behavior, and she was moved to her own room 2 days later. While she was traveling, Eliza was in contact with her parents every single day because they were very nervous about her traveling alone. January 31st was the day that she was scheduled to check out of the Cecil Hotel and leave for Santa Cruz, but her parents didn't hear from her, so shortly thereafter, they called the LAPD, and then they flew to LA to help search for her. The hotel staff that saw Elisa the day that she went missing reported that she was alone. Outside the hotel, the manager of a nearby bookstore, which is super creepy because it was called The Last Bookstore, was the only person that recalled seeing her that day and said that she was very outgoing, very lively, very friendly, and getting gifts to take home to her family, and talking about what book she was going to get and whether she was going to be able to carry it if it was too heavy for her to carry as she traveled. The police searched the hotel to the extent that they legally could. They searched her room. They had dogs go throughout the building. They even searched the rooftop, but the dogs did not detect anything. They did not search every single room because they legally couldn't do that. And finally, on February 6th, about a week after she had last been seen, the LAPD decided more help was needed. So they posted flyers with her picture online and throughout the neighborhood to bring attention through the media.
On February 15th, the police released video footage of the last known sighting of Elisa, which was from the Cecil Hotel's elevator video surveillance camera. This video drew worldwide interest in the case due to her strange behavior in the video. So the camera at one of the elevator's rear corner looks down from the ceiling, showing the elevator and the hallway outside. The video itself is pretty grainy, and the timestamp at the bottom was redacted when the police originally released the video.
This video is super creepy. You guys should check it out. We're going to link to it on our Instagram.
So I'm just going to explain it a little bit. But basically, she comes in wearing a red zippered hoodie over a gray t-shirt with black shorts, And she enters from the left and goes to the elevator buttons, selecting a ton of different floors. Like, it kind of looks like she selects almost every single floor and then takes a step back into the corner. And after a few seconds, the elevator doors don't close. So she kind of steps up to it, thinking that it's broken because obviously the elevator is malfunctioning. So she kind of leaps out and leans her head forward so her head is through the doors. She looks in both directions. And then she quickly steps back in, backs up to the wall, and then back into the corner. And it really looks like she's hiding from somebody. So that's why this video drew so much attention. And the door stays open. And she's standing in the doorway, leaning on the side, going back out into the hallway, then back to the side, back in the elevator. She's just kind of going everywhere. And eventually, her arm goes up over her head, and then she turns to get back into the elevator. And she's putting her hands on the doors like she's kind of catching her balance almost. And then she's putting her hands over her ears. And she turns to the right and she kind of splays her hands out in front with her fingers stretched. And to kind of get like a visual of this, it kind of reminds me of what you do when like you're in a pitch black bedroom trying to look for your bed. Like you kind of have your hands out right in front of you. And then...
Yeah, at some points it kind of looks like she doesn't have glasses on and can't really see. Or like squinting at the buttons and then like kind of feeling out to see if she can feel her way around. But at the same time, it also looks like she's playing some kind of like... It kind of
hide and seek game.
Yeah, like with a little baby.
Yeah, it's really, really creepy.
It's really weird.
And then what gets really weird is that she starts rubbing her forearms together and intertwining her fingers and hands and then waving her hands out and bowing in front of her. And then, so she's kind of, a lot of people think that maybe she was on drugs during this video.
I mean, definitely looks like she was on drugs in this video.
It does. And it's super creepy. Like, I got chills watching it. And then after a while, she finally just walks away to the left of the elevator, coming back from where she came from, and it finally closes. The doors close.
I wish I could like make out her facial expressions because I can't tell if she's laughing or if she's crying or I'm like watching it right now as we're talking. She definitely looks like she's talking to somebody. It looks at one point like she's listing off reasons on her fingers, like why she's mad at somebody or something. Like,
yeah. Some people think she was trying to escape because of how anxious and paranoid she looks. And then some people think it was a psychotic episode because she was bipolar.
Do we know for sure that this is the full video? Like, I know a lot of times the police won't release everything that they have in case later down the line they can use it in court. But do we know if there's additional surveillance?
So originally the video was definitely altered because the video slows down and speeds up. A minute was removed, like other techie things that you wouldn't really be able to see if you didn't know a lot about that.
I mean, whatever's going on, it definitely looks like she's not okay.
It's definitely not a normal thing where you walk into the elevator and it's not functioning, so you just kind of sit there. Like there's something going on, but since the camera angle is literally just the elevator and like part of the hallway outside, you can't see if there actually was somebody there, but it looks really weird.
I mean, it looks like she's talking to somebody, but we never see another person. But then again, if she is legitimately in real danger and there is somebody after her, that's not what it looked like. It didn't look like she was running from somebody or hiding from somebody. It looks like she's playful with somebody else,
like a game.
Yeah, either like playfully, like chasing, hiding, go seeking with like a child, or she's talking to somebody who's not there, like like having some
like
kind
hallucinating.
Exactly.
So during this search for her, the guests at the hotel started to complain about bad tasting water.
Oh my god, this is so disgusting.
And bad water pressure.
I like literally cannot.
So maintenance workers at the hotel went up to the water tanks
on the roof
to like check this out for the guests, and they found her body in one of the tanks. So her body was found on February 19th in one of the 4,000-gallon tanks that provided water to all of the rooms, the kitchen, and a nearby coffee shop. The tank was drained and cut open since its maintenance hatch was too small to accommodate the equipment needed to remove her body. And 2 days later, the LA coroner's office issued a finding of accidental drowning with bipolar disorder as a significant factor. Her body was found naked, and clothing similar to what she was wearing in the elevator video was found floating in the water near her, covered in a sand-like particle, which I couldn't find any more information about what that sand-like particle was. And her watch and her room key were also found with her, but her phone wasn't. They never found her phone. So I'm not going to get into too much of the detail about her body and what they found, but basically they didn't find any evidence of physical trauma, sexual assault, or even like suicide. And the toxicology reports were incomplete because not enough of her blood was preserved because she was in the water for so long, but it showed traces consistent with prescription medication found among her belongings, plus non-prescription drugs like ibuprofen, and a really small percentage of alcohol. And another, like a professional later, basically determined that she wasn't taking her medication properly because they think that she definitely took one of her antidepressants that day, her second antidepressant and mood stabilizer recently, but not that day, and she was not taking her antipsychotic recently in the days before her death.
Maybe they know that not just because of like her blood, but maybe because her prescriptions weren't with her, or they hadn't been filled or something. Maybe there's
that could be something like that too. But I feel like I did remember it was it had to do with like the toxicology and what was in her blood. So the investigation determined how she died, which was the accidental drowning, but not how she got into the water tank. So what's really weird about this, if you look up pictures of the Cecil Hotel's water tank, they're super tall.
It's not like she wanted to go swimming. It's not like
a pool.
No, it's not. And they're not clear either.
Right.
They're like full steel.
Yeah, so if I was just a random person and didn't know like what a water tank looked like, I wouldn't even know that there was water in that. I could think that was like heating tanks.
Or air.
Like,
yeah.
So the doors and the stairs that access the hotel's roof were locked, and only the staff had the passcodes and keys, and any attempt to force them open would have triggered an alarm.
I did read somewhere, or I heard on another podcast somewhere, and I don't know where, but that it was known that kids would go up to the roof.
Oh, really?
Like that it wasn't really locked, that there was another way on, and kids were known to have partied there. But I think by the time the police were there, the hotel probably fixed that because they didn't want to get in trouble.
Probably. The hotel's fire escape could have allowed her to get past the security if she knew about it. And a video made by a Chinese user after her death was posted and showed that the hotel's roof was easily accessible via the fire escape. And
maybe that's how those kids got on the roof.
Right,
then.
And when this person did the video, 2 of the lids to the water tanks were open. So
maybe this was after she died, though. Maybe people were like going to look.
Yeah, they wanted to like do some investigating for themselves. So one of the biggest questions about this case is, could she have gotten into the water tank by herself? So the 4 tanks are 4 feet by 8 feet cylinders propped up on concrete blocks, and there's no fixed access to them. So the worker that found her body, his name was Santiago Lopez, he said that to get to the water tank, he had to take the elevator to the 15th floor. He had to walk up a staircase to the roof. He had to turn off the rooftop alarm and climb on the platform where the water tanks were, then climb another ladder to get to the top of the main tank, 8 feet high, and then he finally found her body. And the tanks themselves are protected by heavy lids that would be really hard to replace from inside the tank. So if you were inside, it would be really hard to put it back on. And he noticed that the hatch to the main water tank was unlocked. So he looked inside and he saw Elisa lying face up in the water.
Well, here's what I want to know. In the video, she's wearing flip-flops. Did they find flip-flops in the tank?
I mean, they found her clothing, I similar to what she was wearing.
But they didn't find anything on the roof. Because if they did...
Right, it was all in the tank.
Right. which makes me think that somebody put her in there, because if she was going to take a swim then and like drowned accidentally, then she wouldn't wear her shoes inside the tank.
Or
and
her clothes even.
No, she could be.
Or take off her clothes when she's in the tank.
Some people say that when you're drowning, you take off your clothes so that they're not weighing you down.
Right. But she was also wearing like shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah, I don't think she, I don't know. I don't know. But she also was not in her right mind, so we can't really analyze someone who's hallucinating. Right. I don't know. But I do want to point out that I don't think they found anything on the roof, because that she had left everything that was with her was in the tank with her, because had they found something randomly left on the roof, they would have found that when they did the search initially with the dogs.
Yeah, and the dogs on the roof, they didn't even go near the water tanks, which I think is kind of crazy.
Or it just goes to show how tightly sealed they were and how thick of steel they were. If the dogs couldn't, those dogs need to be fired.
So
how do you shut the lid by yourself? If the water doesn't go all the way to the top, how do you... That's weird.
Because it's like a hatch.
Did anybody do a demonstration to see if they could... Did they try to replicate this to see if it's possible?
Some people have, and it is possible, but like very unlikely that someone in her mindset, based on the video that we saw of the elevator, would be able to do that.
Oy.
And I mean, from the video, she looks pretty tiny, so like she could have gotten in, but when they found her body, they couldn't get her body out.
Why?
Because they just couldn't. They couldn't get her out of the hatch.
Oh, maybe it was falling apart because it was so decomposed.
Maybe, but they drained the hatch and made a new opening to get her body out.
Well, that's why, because if they drained it, they couldn't reach it from the top because she was at the bottom.
I mean, I don't think they drained it and tried to reach her and was like, oops.
No, I'm just saying. Oh, I wonder if they drained it before they even realized she was in there. Like, if there's something gross with the water, don't you think they would just drain all 3 tanks?
No, the guy that found her, the worker that found her, said that she was about a foot from the top. Like she was floating.
Did he look in all 3 tanks, or that was the first one he looked at?
It was the main water tank, so that was the first one he looked in.
Was it the first one when you get to the roof? Or is it like, because there's 3 in the picture
There's
I saw.
4.
Oh, there's even 4.
Yeah, there's 4. I don't know if it is like the closest one, but it was definitely the main water tank.
Maybe, is that the only one with a opening or a ladder to get?
No, I think they all have ladders. I think they're identical. I think they were identical.
I mean, like, how did she know to, like, pick the one that was the main water tank? Like, I see 4 water tanks. I'm going to use the main one.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just, like, the most easily accessible, but also none of them were really easily accessible, you know? Like, you had to do all that work to get to it.
Yeah, there are 4. I'm looking at the pictures right now. They look identical.
Exactly. They're all the same. See the hatches on the top? They're very small. Like,
there's like a platform even just to get to them.
Yeah, you have to climb up the stairs and then climb up the 8-foot ladder to get into the tank itself.
Isn't there a movie just like this?
Yeah. In 2005, there was a movie that it was like the exact same situation, where it was a Japanese movie, and it was about a young college-aged student who went missing, and they found her in a water tank at the top of a hotel. It's called, I think I wrote it down. It's called Dark Water. It was about a dysfunctional elevator.
What?
Yep, discolored water coming from the building's faucets, which led to the body of a girl being found in the building's rooftop water tank.
Whoa. What's it called again?
Dark Water.
Okay, that is really crazy.
I guess the movie came out in 2002, not 2005. But so many people, like, connected it immediately. Because it's just so weird that 11 years later, basically the same exact thing happened in real life.
So what is the elevator game that people talk about?
Okay, so the elevator game is a game from Korea that is supposed to get you into a different dimension or a different world. And people say that once you're in the different world, it's super hard to find the elevator that you came on. So you really just can't get back to reality.
What are the rules?
So basically, you must be in a 10-story building, and you have to be in the elevator alone. So really what you do is that you get on the elevator at the first floor, and then you press 4, and when you reach 4, you press 2, and then when you reach 2, you press 6, 6, press 2, like just a bunch of different sequences. And then when you reach the 5th floor, a girl will come in, and that woman is not human, so don't talk to or look at the girl, and if you do, she'll take you away. So then you're supposed to press 1, and if the elevator goes to the 10th floor, then you have succeeded, and you will reach another world where no one is there except you.
Is there evidence that the elevator that she was on in the video ever moved?
No.
Do we know what floor she was on at all?
Yeah, so if she was playing this game, she was playing it wrong, because that's not what she was on. So that's why people, like, don't think. Like, it's weird that she was acting so strange.
And pushing all the buttons.
And, like, in the elevator game, if you get off at the 10th floor, then the little girl will ask, where are you going? But you're not supposed to answer. So that's why I was kind of connected to that. But, yeah, if she was playing, like, she wasn't playing it right. Because if you watch the elevator video, really what she was doing is she just got in and pressed a bunch of buttons at a time. And that's not what you're supposed to do. I did watch one clip of the elevator video, and literally the second she gets out, the elevator closes and then goes to all the floors that she pressed. So that's weird, but it's not the elevator game.
Right. So do we know if she was with anybody? Like, did she meet any friends on this trip?
Well, she did have those roommates
that hated her.
Yeah.
Why did they want her to be moved to a different room?
They just said that she was acting, like, really odd. But I didn't find more about,
like, what exactly she was doing.
Yeah. But if she wasn't taking her antipsychotic medication,
I mean, if she was acting anything like she was in the elevator video, I would want her out of my room, too.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of people think that she was on drugs, and the toxicology report says that she wasn't.
Or off drugs.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they just weren't out of her system by then, or that she took a rare mix of drugs that a normal screening wouldn't detect. And during the autopsy, they did take, they took, what's it called, like swabs for like a rape kit and a fingernail kit, but there's nothing on the autopsy report that says what those results were or if they were ever even processed. So as far as I know, they might have never even looked into that. And another thing that's really weird is, you know how I said her phone was missing, or they didn't find her phone? So her Tumblr blog was updated after she died, after she went missing. Her blog was updated, but apparently Tumblr has this option which you can like set a date for a post. But since her phone wasn't found with her or in her hotel room, it was assumed to be stolen around the time of her death. So, I mean, maybe she left it somewhere, but it just seems really weird to me that your phone is missing and then you're dead.
Yeah, very strange. Did they pull her phone records? Was there any phone calls or any?
I couldn't find anything about that.
That's really weird.
A couple interesting things about like theories about what happened is, since it was ruled an accidental drowning with bipolar as like a significant factor, some people think that she was trying to commit suicide. But
oh my God, there's so many better ways to do it than drown yourself in a water tank that you don't even know is there.
So the Cecil Hotel is, again, like I said, like popular for suicides and like strange things. So why didn't she just jump, you know? Like, it's weird that if she was trying to commit suicide, why did she go to the hardest place to do that? Some Reddit theories say that they think she went to the roof to take some pictures or have a look, because if you look at her Instagram, the last few photos that she posted were from various rooftops or high places, and her Tumblr seems to have a lot of similar posts with that theme of cityscapes. This person thinks that she went to the top floor, took a few photos, had a look, then went back to the elevator. I'll link to this Reddit post.
There is one theory that she was on the roof to take pictures for her Instagram, and that the platform where the water towers were on is the best way to view the Hollywood sign, the famous iconic Hollywood sign.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that would explain why she was up there, but not how she accidentally fell in and drowned.
But what's interesting about, like, the suicide theory, so basically that would be that she just had, like, a psychotic break, was struggling with mental illness and wanted to kill herself. But the day before she went missing, she was buying books for her family, like, to take back home. So it doesn't really explain, if you're suicidal, you're not going to buy a ton of gifts and presents and talk about where you're going next, like to Santa Cruz, and wonder if it's too heavy for your purse. Like, that's not what you're going to be concerned with.
According to Medium.com, she used trains and buses to get around, checked in every day from the road with her parents, and sporadically posted pictures to Facebook. In San Diego, she'd gone to the zoo and to a speakeasy where she lost a BlackBerry she borrowed from a friend. Why would she borrow a BlackBerry from a friend?
What friend?
What friend? Why was she borrowing a BlackBerry? Where's her phone? In LA, she went to a taping of Conan O'Brien's TV show and explored downtown by foot. On the afternoon of January 31st, she bought the books. That evening, she was spotted in the lobby of the Cecil, and then she vanished. Maybe that's why they couldn't find her phone, because she didn't have one.
I want to know if the police did an investigation, like, of the hotel workers, because it seems like such a weird place that her body was found. I really want to know, like, how extensively they looked into all of the workers.
Supposedly, at the timestamp in the video of 2:27, you see a third foot. And so people are like...
Well, a whole minute of the video was cut out.
But also, if you are carrying a body that's dead to dump it there, they'd have to climb up a 10-foot ladder with a dead body hung over their shoulder. How easy is that?
Exactly.
That's pretty hard to do.
But also, did you used to watch Monk?
Yeah.
Remember that episode of, like, the hotel maids that killed one of the fellow maids, and they, like, put her body...
Oh, yeah, maybe it was, like, more than one person.
Yeah, and they, like, put her body in one of those maid carts, and, like, nobody suspected that there was a body in it.
Oh, my God, Lauren. Another super weird thing, you know that movie, The Dark Water, the Japanese horror movie?
Yeah.
Guess what the name of the main character is? Dahlia.
Seriously?
Yes. Dahlia.
The Black Dahlia.
That is really weird. So, if she was super into that movie, she would go reenact it at the place where the Black Dahlia was. So, in that movie, a woman moves to an old apartment building with her young daughter, Cecilia, only to discover the building is haunted and the ghost manifests itself in a malfunctioning elevator and in dark water that drips from faucets, the bath, the ceiling. And when the building's inept handyman is unable to stop the leak, Dahlia tries to fix it herself and ends up on the roof of the building where she sees the same dark liquid leaking from a water tank. When she opens it up, the body of a missing girl is floating inside. So what if she was, like, really super into that movie and ends up not taking her meds and went up to the roof? Maybe she, like, watched that movie and wasn't taking her meds and, like, thought she was in the movie and was...
Right.
Yeah. I don't think that it was a suicide. I think it was an accident. Why are there frames missing from the elevator video? That, to me, suggests that there's somebody at the hotel that's involved. I don't know. They seem to think... I think it's really hard to climb up a ladder with an unconscious woman and dump her in there. Not impossible, but more likely she...
Did it herself.
Yeah, like, was not in her right mind.
But
she was seen on the elevator footage acting weird.
Could she have been forced into the tank? Like, someone told her, like, get into the tank, and that's why
like, at gunpoint?
Yeah, and she took off her clothes because she didn't want to drown?
Yeah, it's possible. But
I mean, how would she know how to get up there?
It's
like,
kind of like...
if you're hallucinating and having a psychotic break, don't you think that you would kind of... It'd be hard to get up there? I mean, in the elevator video, it's like, itself, she's stumbling around and she's like holding onto the elevator like to catch her balance. I mean, wouldn't it be kind of hard to go through all of those steps to get up to that water tank, get in? You know?
Yeah. I think that we can definitely rule out suicide because I don't think that she was suicidal. She had just bought presents for people. I don't think this was a suicide.
You wouldn't kill yourself that way.
I don't think so. You're right. I do think it's possible that there was foul play, that she was murdered. I do also think it's equally possible that she had some kind of psychotic break from not taking her medication and it was an accident. I also think it's possible that there is some kind of paranormal element to this story.
For sure.
Because we don't have evidence, the same amount of evidence for the murder theory is present with the paranormal theory.
Yeah, there's none.
Right, exactly. So it's just as possible to me.
Yeah.
that it's a paranormal event that happened.
Totally.
Yeah. Maybe like a little girl appeared and told her to get into the tank. Mm-hmm. Or maybe she thought there was a little girl drowning in the tank and she went after her.
Yeah.
And not only paranormal, but like hallucinating that.
Yeah.
/ paranormal. Either like it really was a ghost or she thought she saw a ghost.
Mm-hmm. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. Like, people hallucinate and no one else sees the hallucinations. That doesn't mean that they don't exist. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, or rather it exists to them.
Yeah.
And that's all that really matters in that moment.
Yeah. I mean, think of people with like schizophrenia
yes.
who they think that there's a person sitting next to them talking to them.
Right. Whether we can see the person or not, they're having a full-on conversation in their head, and to them it's real. So if she thought she was chasing somebody into the tank to save them, and that's why she went in there, I mean, that would explain why she was in there. All we know is that she was in there, and she's dead. Whether this was a murder or a tragic accident, we want to know what you guys think. Leave us a comment on our Instagram account
at Murderlicious Podcast.
Or send us an email to murderliciouspodcast@gmail.com. We hope you enjoyed our first episode, and we'll see you next week.